Richard Hansen, he works at Biddy and Bose Coffee, and his hope is to become manager one day. And my friend Kayla McKeon, she has a new job. She's walking the halls of Congress now as the manager of grassroots advocacy. And because of the able to work provisions that were included in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, people with disabilities will be able to chase their dreams even more. People like Sam, Jamie, Richard, Kayla. They can save more of what they earn when they get those jobs, and it will give them an opportunity to live independent, with dignity, and with purpose. This week, the House is also taking the final steps on our promise to rebuild our military and give our troops a much-needed pay increase. We owe it to our service members to make sure that they have the tools and the resources to safely train, restore readiness, and keep all of us safe. And they go about it every day, here and all around the world. And I think it's important to remember, just last year, that more of our service members were killed in training accidents than actually in combat. The readiness gap is jeopardizing lives and threatening our national security. So it's so important that we come together, both parties, to strengthen our military and set us on a path for a stronger, more secure America.
Liz Cheney.
Thank you very much, Kathy. It's an honor to be here. There's no more important or even, frankly, sacred obligation than those of us who are elected have than to provide for the defense of this nation. We are facing a complex and grave national security environment, one that features more significant threats than at any time since before World War II. And we're not in a situation today where you can just say conflict is coming, conflict is on the horizon. In many ways, conflict is here. We've got adversaries that are probing, attacking us across a whole variety of measures and means. And for far too long, because of the policies of the Obama administration in particular, because of inconsistent funding from Congress, we've been in a situation where our military has been starved. The Obama administration policies left us with an Army that was smaller than at any time since World War II, a Navy smaller than at any time since World War I, and an Air Force that was the smallest and oldest in history. So because of the work of Speaker Ryan, because of the work of our leadership, because of the work of Chairman Thornberry, we're now in a position where that can end. And that's why we must pass this omnibus. And frankly, we must come to agreement. We must stop talking. We must move to appropriate the funds that we agreed to in the budget deal and in the CAPS deal several weeks ago. It is simply too dire a situation for us to wait any longer. And we can't continue to ask our men and women in uniform to put their lives on the line, to make the ultimate sacrifice, unfortunately, in some cases, without the very best resources and equipment. Our adversaries' capabilities have been increasing and our own have been decreasing. Passing this omnibus is the way to begin to change that and to turn it around. So I urge all of my colleagues to move to vote yes on this omnibus. Thank you.
It's good to follow the senior member of the Wyoming delegation. I'm Don Bacon. I served nearly 30 years in the Air Force, 16 assignments, retired as a one-star, and I saw the military performance and capabilities decline, particularly over the last 5-10 years when I served there. And it's something, when I ran as a challenger in 2016, I said this is a #1 priority. When you look at what's happened to our military, we've cut it 18% going back since 2010. While we're fighting 2 wars, we have a worldwide presence and obligation. Our fighter pilots that are flying 11 hours a month to prepare for deployment. That's 1/3 of what they should be flying. We have 58 combat brigades in the Army. Only 5 are ready to fight tonight. And when you look at the Navy, only half of the Navy ship or aircraft are ready to fly any given day. And we can give you statistic after statistic. Our military should be second to none. And when you have your 4-stars saying that our readiness levels are the worst they've seen or on paper since 1977, it demands action. I believe in peace through strength. I believe in deterrence. And this bill that we're going to hopefully pass, and I think we will fix our military. We're going to get a 10% increase. If we hold that with inflation for 3 or 4 years, we'll get our military healthy again. Deterrence will be served. We're going to improve our funding on cyber, missile defense. We're going to grow the number of people that are serving so that the burden is shared. I know people in Offutt Air Force Base who have deployed 25 times. That is hard on families. We got to do better. This will be the first pay raise that we're going to see that matches inflation in over a decade for our servicemen and women, important for our families. We're going to start adding more stealth aircraft, start building towards a Navy of 355 ships. I'm excited about what we're doing. This was a #1 responsibility, and I'm excited to have been a part of it. And I want to thank the leadership for putting the emphasis on this, and I look forward to supporting this bill. Thank you.
Good morning. We start this morning with heavy hearts. We're hearing reports of a shooting at St. Mary's County in Maryland, and our prayers go out to everybody impacted. Obviously, we're going to be trying to get as much information as we can throughout the day. In the meantime, later this week, as you heard from my two colleagues that have been leaders in the defense industry and understanding how to rebuild our nation's defense, we're going to be voting on a bill to finally start restoring our nation's defense to the levels that it needs to be, to give our men and women in uniform the tools that they need, not only to be prepared to defend our country, but to be able to train in a safe environment. We've seen, even in the last week, planes falling out of the sky and killing some of our men and women in uniform. That needs to stop. And in this bill, we finally start to reverse that problem by restoring air superiority, by giving our troops a much-needed pay raise, something that is going to be part of this bill. We actually restore our naval fleet, but we also support our friends around the world. We've traditionally had a strong alliance with Israel. In this bill, we actually increase that. We continue to fund the Israeli missile defense that's so critical to keeping the people of Israel safe. The Iron Dome, David Sling. We advance some of the technology in anti-tunneling. That's going to be something important to help our allies around the world, not just Israel. So it's an important bill that finally restores the cuts that have been made to our nation's defense so that we can rebuild and maintain one of our basic constitutional responsibilities, that is to provide for a strong national defense. I expect to see a strong vote on this bill later this week. Grab this.
First, we made very clear to the country, we made a promise to the country that we would rebuild our military. Years of cuts and years of uncertainty have hollowed out our armed forces. You just heard the statistics. They're glaring. Aging equipment, personnel shortages, training lapses, maintenance lapses. All of this has cost us. It has hurt us. Last year alone, we lost 4 times as many service members in accidents and training exercises as we did in combat. That is just unacceptable. We can't keep asking our service members to go above and beyond when we are leaving them underprepared and under-equipped for the fight. With this week's critical funding bill, we will begin to reverse that damage. We will fully fund our national defense at the levels requested by the Pentagon by Secretary Mattis. This will be the biggest increase in defense spending in 15 years. It will allow Secretary Mattis to increase our troop levels, to address our readiness shortfalls, and to upgrade our weapons systems. It will give him what he needs to implement our new national security strategy and prepare us for new and evolving threats. It is so important. This is the biggest pay raise for our members in 8 years. I met a young woman on Thursday. She's a lieutenant colonel in the Army. She had done 6 combat tours. A friend of mine from Janesville is on his way to his 7th combat tour. This is what our service members are doing for us. And it's high time we respond to them. Give them the pay raise that they have earned over and over again. Give them the equipment they need so that they can do their jobs well and safely, and give them the resources they can do the training that they need so that when they're actually in harm's way, they are equipped. That's what this bill does. This bill will obviously do a lot else, but this is really about how we build the 21st century military. We have 21st century threats, and our men and women in uniform need to be equipped and prepared to deal with these threats. So I want to thank these members of the Armed Services Committee for their leadership. I want to thank the members of the Appropriations Committee as they work to finalize this legislation. This is going to mark a beginning of a new era for our nation's military, and it's high time we do that. Questions? Come on. You were late. Yeah.
We'll do the other pregnant lady.
Yeah. I'll go to the second. All right.
When are we going to see this omnibus?
Hopefully soon. Yeah. I think I'm hoping today.
About any short-term CR to give
No, we're not talking about that. Look, We got close, but we weren't going to let midnight stop us from finishing our job of negotiating it out. There are some unresolved issues. We're working through them while we speak, and we're hoping to post today. Okay, second pregnant lady.
Do you agree with some of your Republican colleagues that the president needs to stop attacking the special counsel and support measures to protect his investigation?
Look, first of all, the special counsel should be free to follow through his investigation to its completion without interference. Absolutely. I am confident that he'll be able to do that. I've received assurances that his firing is not even under consideration. We have a system based upon the rule of law in this country. We have a justice system, and no one is above that justice system. I thought you had your hand up, sorry. Oh, I'm not going to get into that. Yeah.
Do you support revealing the names of members of Congress who use taxpayer funds to pay for sexual harassment claims?
We think the bill that we passed is the right bill. We feel we had a bipartisan bill that the House passed that was led by Jackie Spears, by Bradley Byrne, by Barbara Comstock. We like that bill. We think that's the bill that should become law.
The bill only addresses
I support the bill because it was a carefully crafted compromise, and we think it's the right way to go. Andy.
What does it say about Republican government that Democrats are getting more money for domestic programs than they ever were able to obtain?
Well, first of all, we're pleased with where that domestic funding is going. This bill is not yet resolved, but remember, Andy, we had veterans dying on waiting lists to get care at the Veterans Department, at the Veterans Agency. The VA needed upgrading, the VA needed improving. We think that's important. I think all people, Republicans and Democrats, agree we have a serious opioids crisis in this country. This is taking down citizens across the country, and we need to address this opioids crisis. That's something we think needs funding. We also believe, based upon the fantastic scientific research by scientists around this country, in concert with the National Cancer Institute, the National Institute of Health, that we have a close chance of getting to some really critical cures. So 2 years ago, we passed the 21st Century Cures Bill. We need to fund that. And so those kinds of investments are things that Republicans and Democrats agree on. And we negotiated a compromise budget agreement because, as we just said here, we really think our military is in duress. We are sending men and women to fight for us in combat, under-equipped, with aging equipment, and they don't have the training they need to do their jobs. What's the fighter pilots are a third of the training they need?
Yes, before we send them out to fight.
So that's critical. The name of the game on the debt and the deficit's entitlements. You know that. You've been covering the budget for as long as I've been here. It's entitlements. And regrettably, the House passed the biggest entitlement reform bill Congress has ever considered last year, and regrettably the Senate did not follow suit. So we're just going to have to keep at it on entitlements. Casey.
Mr. Speaker, there's another school shooting this morning. There's been discussion of a bill with broad bipartisan support to fix Nick's
Yes.
to put this in the omnibus. Why not?
That's something we're discussing with our colleagues.
And do you think ultimately,
Yeah, I think we should do Fix Nix. I agree with Fix Nix. That's something we're discussing with our friends on the other side of the aisle. Soybean.
Where do you think stand on exclusions for aluminum and steel tariffs? And have you heard anything?
It's a really good question. I wish I knew the answer to that. So, as you know, I believe that we should be targeted in our trade approach. There is dumping and transshipping that's occurring with respect to aluminum and steel. That's what we should be focusing on. We are hopeful and confident that the administration will continue to narrow their approach so that it's less broad-based and more focused on those who are perpetrating these unfair trade practices. So that's really where this has to go. They're working on an exclusion, an exemption system. We have not seen the details of that yet, but we are strongly encouraging the administration. Let's focus on the people who are perpetuating these unfair trade practices without hurting allies who are not cheating, who are not dumping. And we also have to take into consideration the affected industries right here in America that use steel and aluminum. We don't want to cost jobs there as well. Thank you very much.